St. Michael's boarding school is a magnificent place. An elegant and traditional school that provides boys from a good background a future of success and excellence. That's what I had been told. But actually, I was rather terrified. The sight of those tall old towers made of brick and stone, those paneled windows too similar to those of a church. It was my first time in such a kind of school, and I definitely wasn't looking forward to it. Especially when it seemed like I was the only guy of my age with a mother crying her eyes out while taking leave. Sure, there were some kids in their first year sobbing and hugging their mother's skirts, but they were 11 years old, not 16 like myself. All the older looking guys gave short hugs to their parents and immediately ran to meet their schoolmates, patting their backs and being generally loud. I felt completely out of place. And, to make things worse, the other boys were starting to throw funny glances at my mother's and my direction. Man, so embarrassing. I tried to shrink and melt with the wooden walls of the ancient-looking hall. Or, alternatively, I tried to calm my mother down. Please, Mom, I'll be alright. Stop crying. But I don't know if I'm ready to face 3 entire months without seeing you again. We have never been separated for so long from each other. And to my discomfort, her sobs turned louder. My savior appeared in the form of a balding man dressed in grey with the school crest embroidered on his chest pocket. Ah, you must be the new student. Please let me guide you to your bedroom. Your name is? Alex White. Yes, I have it noted down somewhere. I'm Wilson, the housemaster, so if you need anything like an additional blanket, another lamp, or an application for leaving the school, just look for me. I nodded and grabbed my suitcase. I wished I felt more at ease. After all, the man was being really kind and was not the stern type I was expecting. But I couldn't help feeling tense with my mother by my side and all the racket in the hall, with boys and parents talking loudly and rushing past us. The man headed towards the main corridor and I started following him. My mother then attempted to follow us, but Wilson turned and stopped her with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, ma'am, but relatives are not allowed inside the building. But do not fret, I will accompany Mr. White to his bedroom and will make sure he makes himself at home. He patted my shoulder with a big smile. And I'm sure this young man will write home very soon, won't you? I nodded at once, wanting to make my mother feel more at ease. I really didn't want my last sight of her for months to be one of her face contoured in sadness like right then. She seemed a bit calmer, but then suddenly embraced me tightly. Please write to us as soon as possible. Your father couldn't come today, but you know how nervous he was as well. I will, don't worry. Well, then, come on, Mr. White, follow me. I disentangled myself from my mother's arms and grabbed my suitcase again, waving goodbye to her. Then, the year was 1910 and my new life was about to start. Wilson led me to my bedroom, which I was to share with 3 other students, and after showing me which one was my bed and my wardrobe, he also told me that the door in front of our bedroom was the study room for my year mates. As soon as he left, I started unpacking my stuff and placing my clothes in hangers inside the wardrobes. Ah, hello there. I turned to the door and I saw a red-headed guy smiling in my direction. I uneasily looked back. Nobody was behind me. So yes, he must have been speaking to me. Hello, I'm new in St. Michael's. The boy chuckled, amused. The suitcase and the fact that I haven't met you in the 5 years I've been here gave you away easily. I tried to smile back, feeling clumsy and awkward. It ended being more of a grimace than a true smile. So, what's your name, new boy? I'm Alex White. The boy extended his right hand in my direction and I hurried to shake it. I hope my palm wasn't sweaty, was it? Damn, nobody my age shook hands in my village. This school was definitely too formal for me, but at least these guys seemed nice. My name is Montgomery Johnson. You can call me Monty. In fact, please do so. My bed is this one, the one beside yours, so I'm your neighbor. The door opened and two other guys appeared in the threshold. So the rumors were right and you haven't faced this term? The young man who had spoken was dark-haired and had a bigger build than me or Monty, and in general, looked older and more mature than us. His eyes looked intently at me with an amused spark, and before I could open my mouth to introduce myself, Monty spoke for me. This is Alex. We have just met. Alex, this is Damien. He waved to the other boy half hidden behind Damien. And that one is Rick. He's the clever of the group, so I hope he will accept to study with us this term too. Will you? The boy shrugged, avoiding our eyes. He was very tall and thin, and after feeling so awkward the whole day, I marveled to meet someone who looked still shyer than me. That thought made me smile a bit, and I reached out my hand to shake theirs. To my surprise, Damien took it after hesitating for a short moment, raising an eyebrow as if the situation was oddly entertaining to him. The way he shook my hand, looking at me with a crooked grin on his face, made me think he was making fun of me. Perhaps shaking hands was only normal for Monty after all? How would I know? Slightly annoyed, I turned to Rick, who passed by my side towards his bedroom without a single word or glance in my direction. Such nice roommates. Before I started to fume, Monty laughed, shaking his head. Please, don't be upset. I'm sure you will be used to their antics very soon. It's almost dinner time. Do you want me to show you the school afterwards? That would be perfect, actually. But we are having dinner so early. Monty and Damien chuckled. So you didn't know? We take the monastic vows when arriving here. Get ready for tons of church time, getting up before dawn and going to sleep at sunset. Oh, shut up! It's not so bad. But it's true, we worked hard at St. Michael's. Let's go. I will explain the schedules while we go to the dining room. The three of us followed Monty out of our bedroom and across a number of corridors and stairs. I tried to memorize the way, although I started to be afraid of getting lost often in that labyrinth of wooden corridors and doors. It couldn't be helped. I guessed I was stuck with following Monty everywhere until I made myself familiar with the layout of the building. The lesson started at 8 o'clock, and breakfast is served at 7:30, but there is a compulsory religious service at 7, so we usually get up at 6:30. At 6 if you want to have a bath in the morning, since the bathrooms in the evening are rather packed. Oh. Also, the best time to get the study room for ourselves is before the service, so we often get up at 5 or 4:30 during exams. I stared at him. He was smiling as if that was the most normal thing to do in the world. You're kidding me. He isn't. In fact, Rick takes our study group very seriously, so we must follow his rules down to the letter. He is very strict with his schedules, but it's rare that if you follow his directions, you will succeed in all your subjects with an A+. Baffled, I glanced towards our silent roommate and followed them inside the dining hall. I was already missing my old school, where you went back to your home every afternoon and didn't need to sweat at all to pass all your subjects. Come on, Alex, hurry up, or we won't get our table. Yes, sorry. I sat beside Monty, and our two other roommates went to sit in front of us. Almost immediately, a senior student started reading a passage from the Bible, while the rest of us waited in silence. I started to space out, but the reading was short and the plates were served at once. The food was good, at least, although it was a bit early for me, so I wasn't hungry. Where did you used to study, Alex? Oh, until now I've always attended my village school. It's in Surrey. Never been there. My family lives in the north. You aren't missing anything, I thought. My village is really small and ordinary, so I didn't think it was worth commenting about it to Monty. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Yes, I have 4 older siblings, 3 brothers and 1 sister, but they are way older than me. They are all married and living in their own homes. Oh, really? I'm the same. I'm the youngest of 6 and I have already 2 nephews and 3 nieces. I smiled widely at this. What a coincidence. I also have 4 nieces and 1 nephew. That makes 5, same as you. Monty grinned and hooked an arm around my neck, pulling me closer in a vice grip. I struggled a little, but without any heat. It was a little embarrassing to be treated so familiar by a guy I had just met, but it was also warm. One of my fears about coming to St. Michael's was feeling isolated after all, so I was glad to have found someone so friendly in my first day at the school. I turned to our roommates in a pantomime of asking for help to get rid of Monty, just to see Damien laughing out loud. And Rick staring at me with an oddly serious face. He looked aside when he caught me glancing at him. I cleared my throat and slid from Monty's grip, suddenly uncomfortable. Damien started talking with Rick about some schoolmates I hadn't met, so I turned to ask Monty in a quiet voice. Is Rick always so shy? Monty seemed surprised by my question. Rick? I wouldn't call him shy, no. Why are you asking? I didn't know what to say. So my first impression of Rick was wrong, then. Perhaps he wasn't simply upset because of my presence. That opinion made me feel disappointed. We were bound to share our bedroom for the entire year after all. And it seems Rick was in charge of the study group, so if he didn't want me there... I shuddered at the thought of endless hours studying on my own and with the added difficulty of having no one else to partner with for the group projects. Are you thinking that he doesn't like you or something like that? I didn't dare to nod. Was it so transparent? Monty laughed and bumped his shoulder against mine. Don't overthink stuff like that. He is simply a serious guy. Be kind to him and I assure you he won't have a problem with you. I hope so, I thought, slightly relieved. But I caught in the corner of my eye how Rick was staring again at me. I pretended I didn't notice this time and pushed Monty's hands off my shoulder. When we finished having dinner, Monty took me around to see the school, as he had previously offered while Damien and Rick went back to our bedroom. In the right wing we have the gym and the church, and in this main wing, on the 2nd floor, is our classroom. The left wing, as you already know, is where the dorms are located. Ours are on the 2nd floor as well. What would you like to see? So, da ich jetzt auch mal was sagen kann, sage ich erstmal herzlich willkommen zu A Hand in the Darkness, einem Novelspiel, und zwar einem Boys Love Novelspiel tatsächlich. Ich hoffe, euch stört mein unfassbar schlechtes Englisch nicht. Ich gebe mein Bestes, das so flüssig und gut wie möglich auszusprechen, und ich hoffe auch, dass ich alles richtig ausspreche. Falls nicht, es tut mir leid. Aber ich gebe einfach mein Bestes. So, und wir sind der neue Schüler an dieser Schule und haben unsere 3 neuen, Bettgenossen, klingt falsch, Zimmergenossen, genau, so, kennengelernt. Monty, Damien und Rick. Und der Monty führt uns jetzt in der Schule rum und zeigt uns alles und fragt uns jetzt, was wir denn sehen wollen. Und ich würde sagen, nachdem wir ja wahrscheinlich bald Unterricht haben, wollen wir erstmal unseren Klassenraum sehen. Der war, glaube ich, auf der 2. Etage. Ich bin ganz schlecht darin, mir sowas zu merken. Oh, I should have guessed our classroom is locked. But don't worry, you will see it first thing in the morning. He sighed. I looked around in the darkness, feeling uneasy. Monty was familiar with these corridors, but I wasn't, so I could only make up unknown shapes. It was a little unnerving not knowing where I was or how to go back to my bedroom. Plus, there was the additional issue of tripping over something in the darkness. You're not afraid of the dark, right? Of course not. Stop smirking. You can't possibly see me smirking. Not that I need to, so stop already. Okay. Also ist unser Klassenraum zugesperrt. Und dann gehen wir doch mal zur Kirche. It was bigger than I imagined, but also airy and welcoming. I expected a darker and menacing place. I don't know why. Well, I was glad to be wrong. Monty showed me around, speaking in whispers that traveled from wall to wall in a muffled echo. Ja, dann fehlt ja nur noch unser Sportplatz. Ja, Sportplatz. Ich werde auch nicht, noch als Info, ich werde auch nicht alles verstehen. Das weiß ich jetzt schon. Ich versuche so viel zu verstehen, wie geht. Und da ich ganz schlecht darin bin, Stimmen zu imitieren, während bei mir die Charaktere einfach alle gleich klingen. Ich habe es versucht. Am Anfang ist es wahrscheinlich keinem aufgefallen, weil sie alle gleich klingen. Aber ich gebe mein Bestes. Vielleicht lerne ich es irgendwann noch. Aber jetzt gehen wir noch zum Sportplatz. Wow, it's pretty big. We didn't have one in my previous school. Monty looked amused. I bet you won't be so enthusiastic once you get acquainted with all those torture instruments that our teacher call gymnastic equipment. Ja gut, jetzt haben wir ja dann alles gesehen. Dann würde ich sagen, zurück zu unserem Wohnheim. Can we go back to our bedroom? I have seen enough for today. Wait, there's another place I want to show you. Follow me upstairs. Let's see the upper floor. What's in it? There used to be an infirmary, but they closed ages ago. Now if you get sick, you must ask the housemaster for an aspirin and go back to your bedroom or ask him to get a doctor from town. But this is the interesting part. There are a lot of rumors running about the old infirmary. He grinned in a conspiracy tone and I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. I can't see a damn thing. Don't be so whiny. Do you want me to tell you the story about the infirmary or not? I sighed. Do I have a choice? Monty grabbed my hand in the almost absolute darkness and entwined his fingers with mine. I was glad. I wasn't very fond of not being able to see where he was or where he was heading, so at least this way I knew exactly his location. The nurses in St. Michael's used to be old nuns from the nearby convent and one of the outskirts of town. But the last one who came was a young nun who had recently taken her vows. Let me guess, she was a beautiful maid, wasn't she? No, she wasn't wealthy or pretty. It seems she was rather ordinary in every way. She wasn't the daughter of a merchant who had his small store in town, just that. She was to be married to a young foreign merchant who used to trade for her father, and it seems she was happy with the prospect. But after all the preparations, the day of the wedding arrived and the groom didn't come. So she waited all day in the church in her white dress surrounded by flowers. At sunset her family took her back home, and although she must have been heartbroken, she didn't shed a tear. She was so ashamed that she wanted to hide her face from the world forever, so the next day she left her father's home and entered the convent. Oh, poor girl. I followed Monty up some stairs. The wood was dry and old and creaked under our feet. It was as dark as before, and I could only say where Monty was because of the direction from which his voice came. I tightened my grip on his hands just to be sure not to lose him. But she was so gloomy at the convent that they decided to send her here. Perhaps they thought she would be happier making herself useful, or that she would find someone and change her mind. And she did? Yeah, she did. He made a long and uncomfortable pause. Soon, a teacher started to court her, and he didn't stop until he turned her into his lover. What he didn't tell her was that he was already married. When she eventually found out, she broke up with him, enraged. Afterwards, she got really depressed. Don't tell me this is one of those stories where the nun killed herself and now she returned to the school as a ghost. Suddenly, there was a hand on my nape, and Monty's breath touched my ear, warm and ticklish, exciting, a shiver running up my spine. Oh no. She had a madness outbreak and took 3 students' lives before taking her own. I gasped and moved away, and his hand slipped from my fingers. I felt a rustling of clothes and a sudden rush of cool air around me. Monty? Monty? Where are you? Don't you dare leave without me. I stepped forward and met the wall. Cursing, I turned and tried to keep walking while following the wall. A light female laughter sounded somewhere in front of me. Freezing, I turned again in the opposite direction. I knew my imagination was playing tricks on my mind. Where were the stairs and where was Monty? Monty, this isn't funny! Another sound, a soft bump came from some meters ahead from me. Cursing, I stopped walking. That must have been Monty. That must have been him, I was sure. Then, why couldn't I dare to ask aloud if it was him? A cold sweat was starting to dampen the back of my skirt and my hands were trembling. I shook my head. No, there wasn't anything supernatural there. I just had to keep on walking until I found the stairs. Another knock, this time louder, and I uttered a muffled cry. I could feel presence. I could see anything, but the air around me moved. I glued my back to the wall and closed my eyes tightly. My knees buckled and I suddenly found myself kneeling to the ground. Oh, come on, guys, this has gone too far. There was laughter, definitely a male one, and when I opened my eyes, I found Monty, Damien, and Rick in front of me. Monty had lit a lamp and he was looking at me with concern in his eyes. Damien, the bastard, was laughing out loud until there were tears in the corners of his eyes. Rick's face was unreadable, but under his serious features I swear I could see a hint of embarrassment. Wishful thinking, perhaps. Monty helped me to my feet and threw a furious glance on Damien. Look, he's trembling. I told you this was a bad idea. Whatever you say, mate. He shrugged, still grinning. I'm really sorry, Alex. Damien thought it would be fun to do a little prank on you. You know, as you're the new one here. I nodded uneasy. I had never felt so embarrassed in my whole life. I tried to play it off, pretending to be mad at them while I followed them back to our bedroom. Instead, I was only mad at myself. Was I so gullible that a bit of darkness and ghost story turned my niece into jelly? I had been certainly too spoiled and too overprotected. I needed to thought up a lot if I was to survive in a school full of other guys who weren't my family. There was no one else to protect me from then on. I had only myself to count on. Still, I thought to myself while I faded into sleep a little later, I was glad to have Monty. Although he had taken part in the prank, he looked truly ashamed afterwards, so perhaps I could count him as my friend. The other two, well, I didn't want to think about them. With that in my mind, I fell asleep on my first day in St. Michael's. The next day was extremely long and exhausting. I woke up very early, but the bedrooms were already taken, so I couldn't take a bath as I would have liked. I tagged along with Monty to the religious service, then to breakfast and the lessons. Every teacher seemed to be strict and serious, and after the never-ending lessons, I came to a sad conclusion. I was behind in almost every subject. Well, how was your first day being in St. Michael's? Well, now I can see the difference between my previous school and this one. The level here is way higher. Monty chuckled. But that was to be expected, wasn't it? Don't worry, Rick, Damien and I will help you to catch up easily. We have 2 spare hours until dinner. What would you like to do? Okay. Was wollen wir jetzt machen? I would like a bit time for... Ja, wir können uns jetzt nicht schon gleich am Anfang... ja, absondern. Auch wenn die gestern echt, also der Streich war echt gemein. Ich glaube, ich wäre einfach da gesessen und hätte so losgeheult. Bin schon so ein Schisser. Aber ich würde sagen, nachdem wir eh schon hinterherhängen mit allem, let's meet the others and start studying. Do you think Rick and Damien would like to start scheduling or study time? I was already rather afraid of not being able to follow the rhythm of the lessons and fail spectacularly with my grades. Monty shrugged and turned to the stairs. I can't speak of Damien, but I'm sure Rick will be up to it. Let's go to the study room. Hey Rick, are you going to the study room? Can we go with you? We could start planning our study time for this term. What do you think? Rick was standing in the corridor outside our bedroom and avoided my eyes as usual. He looked a bit more comfortable around Monty, thought, not only looking at his face but also allowing Monty to pat his shoulder without wincing. I wish, but the study room is already full. What? Those guys are seriously fast. How did they manage to reach the room so quickly? Damn it. There's no other place to study? We can go to the library, but remember, we must be as quiet as possible or the librarian will throw us out of the place and ban us from entering again. Of course. Well, at least he spoke to me, I thought. I followed them to the library. It was a nice and comfortable place. It reminded me a bit of my father's study, where I used to spend all the winter afternoons studying or reading. Rick explained to me in a quiet voice everything we had learned in class that day that I didn't understand. I must say, he was a really good teacher. It was way easier understanding him than understanding our teachers. The curious thing is that once he started to focus on his school subjects, he forgot completely about his shyness or whatever he had around me, and spent almost 2 hours learning against my side to help me without being heard from the librarian's desk. We might look like two conspirators speaking in whispers and throwing suspicious glances around us to check we weren't being overheard. Monty sat in front of us, glancing all the time in our direction. He didn't seem very focused on his own work, to be honest, and most of the time he was just spacing out. At last, he looked again at the wall clock and stood up, pulling my arm to make me get up as well. Study time is over. You have monopolized Alex enough for today. Let's go to the dining hall already. Rick looked confused and just glanced down while nodding. Sorry. What are you apologizing for? You have helped me a lot. I'm really grateful. I owe you one. He looked at me askance and his cheeks tined lightly. I couldn't help but chuckle. Rick got embarrassed so easily that it was almost cute. And Monty honestly thought Rick wasn't shy. Perhaps they weren't that close even after sharing a room for years. Interrupting my thoughts, Monty wrapped an arm around my shoulder and pushed me towards the door. Shh! Remember, we can't speak loudly here. Let's go! And the three of us took our books back to our bedroom and then headed to the dining hall. We sat at what I now called on my mind our table. I wonder where the hell Damien is hiding today. Well, doesn't matter. After all, it's unusual for him to disappear for hours, and you better not ask him where he has been. What do you mean? Monty sighed, and Rick and he shared a pointed look. Rick put his glasses up his nose and glanced to the opposite wall, apparently embarrassed. I don't know if I should tell you, but you're better off warned, aren't you? Warned about what? Damien adores breaking rules, so he's usually doing something that goes against the school norms. Right now he's probably playing dice or poker and betting money on it. What? Really? Rick nodded. And there is the possibility that some of the teachers are in his poker game. I couldn't say a word, too shocked to form coherent thoughts. And just then, right when the food plates were starting to be served, Damien appeared and sat in front of me. He reeked of cigarettes and alcohol, and looked me over with a smirk. Our plates arrived, and I was glad to have something to do. Enduring Damien's stare was a bit too much for me.